celebrating the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life with Sterling Fox on AM 650.
Welcome back to the program. Our guest in studio from Mainland Hearing and Next Gen Hearing, audiologist Dr. Ted Venema. Always a pleasure to have Dr. Ted with us. We're talking hearing, a subject we don't talk enough about on Boomer Life, Dr. Ted, and thanks to you, we're able to do that on a semi-regular basis, and it's really important. You keep saying, and you're absolutely spot on, you know, we all are super careful and conscious about our eyesight. You use the example, and we've known about it since we were old enough to speak. You don't ever look directly at the sun. If you do, you are courting disaster. But we don't see hearing, so for whatever reason, we choose consciously not to pay as much attention to it.
It's the underrated sense. I mean, vision is more of an environmental sense. You use vision so you don't walk into a truck. You know, vision, if I had to choose one, of course, I think I would choose vision. Interestingly enough, Helen Keller, who was deaf and blind, she said if she could have had one sense back, it would be hearing. But that's because it was for language.
Right.
She had such a struggle to learn language, to learn the concept that a W stood for something. But it really took a long, but you can't see hearing loss.
Right.
And so people underestimate it. They'll look at, teachers will think the kid's learning disabled or not listening.
Right.
Parents will think the TV's up too loud and the kid's just being willfully disobedient. So cuff them, whoop them upside the head. You know, anything, but people sweep it under the rug. Oh, elderly people, they're dementia, senile, you know, senility. And it's sad because hearing keeps you connected with the world.
Right.
Helen Keller said blindness cuts you off from things. Hearing loss cuts you off from people.
Right.
There's a difference. It's a communicative sense. And hearing loss affects not only the person who has hearing loss, it also affects significant others around them.
Right.
So, I mean, because it's a two-way street. Communication is a two-way street.
Right.
So people tend to put off buying hearing aids for 5 to 7 years after they know they need them.
Right.
This is well established in the research. I didn't make this up. This is well established.
And is that because they're afraid of the optics? Oh, I'm going to be this going to have this big clunky thing hanging off the side of my head, and everybody's going to know I'm half
exactly.
deaf. And that's such old news, Ted.
It is old news, and we are having a hard time breaking through the glass ceiling.
Okay.
It's hard to get people to know how much hearing aids have changed. They are digital. They are programmed. Most of the time via Bluetooth. You'd be wearing hearing aids. I'd bink in the values done on your hearing test. This is how much Sterling heard at low C. This is how much he heard at middle C. This is how much he heard at high C. And I'd do that at 7 or 8 different octave frequencies. So I'd get a picture of your hearing loss. And then I would tune the hearing aid. I have you wear the hearing aids, and with the computer, I'd enter those numbers in, choose a hearing aid company, and then fit the hearing aid to match your hearing levels, much like you do with an equalizer with all the buttons going up and down.
Sure.
Hearing aids have all these different channels, much like fingers. And if you're looking at your fingers, you can raise or lower each. You can raise. So hearing aids take a prescription. Too many people think hearing aids just make sounds loud.
Right.
And that's a load of crap. You can't borrow someone else's hearing aids
That's true.
any more than you can borrow someone else's eyeglasses.
True.
It's a different prescription.
Right.
Okay? So hearing aids usually are more treble emphasis because most people have treble hearing loss.
Right.
But your treble loss will be different from mine.
Right.
And so they're tuned to match that. Then hearing aids have digital noise reduction. They have directional microphones to pick up sounds in the direction in which you're facing to get rid of the background noise. So the algorithms, the digital algorithms going on in a hearing aid are whoppingly complex. They're not simple amplifiers anymore.
And here's the kicker. When I had my hearing test with Dr. Lee over at Metrotown at Mainland, he and I had a little interview beforehand, and he, a little bit of a chat, and then he put me into that sound-treated room, and I went through the test, and then we sat down and discussed my results to a certain extent. And over the course of the conversation, Dr. Lee's a really nice man, and very professional, and very patient with the likes of me. But, at the end of the conversation, he just very calmly reached into his ear and pulled out a hearing aid.
Yeah.
I had no idea
That's
the
right.
man was wearing a hearing
Exactly.
aid. He had them in both ears. They were absolutely invisible.
And believe it or not, many of these are actually behind the ear hearing aids. And you'd think, no, those are those big beige things.
Yeah.
Nope, not anymore. You would never notice. The little tube that runs down your ear is almost invisible. It's thread thin. It's going into a tiny little speaker that's sitting in your ear canal.
Right.
And the body of the aid is meant to match your hair color, skin color. You can get any color of the rainbow you want. And those hearing aids actually talk to each other. Like, it's just remarkable. They communicate to each other to determine in which direction I'm facing, how to balance the sound properly. It's just incredible.
Well, and that's I appreciate the time that you've taken to describe the technology involved, because people take a look at the price attached to a hearing aid and go, "Are you kidding me?"
I know.
But then take a look at the complexity of this tiny little device.
There was this really sad episode on CBC that talked about, the hearing aids are only worth about $20 or $60 or whatever it is that's inside of them. Yeah, well, so's a computer. Try making a laptop. Try building one.
Right.
It's like, whatever. Look at the algorithms taking place inside the hearing aid, how it's behaving. It's quite sophisticated. So they've come a long way, and cosmetically they have too.
Well, yeah, I was absolutely, as I say, I was completely surprised more than anything else that Dr. Lee, and he showed them to me because he knew I would be surprised. I had not a clue. So again, just with reference to this whole stigmatization thing, somehow or other, you're perceived by Lord only knows who, as being somewhat of a lesser human being because you need some assistance to hear well. I mean, how silly is that?
Children of a lesser God.
Well, that's right. That was that Marley Matlin movie, wasn't it?
Yep.
Talk to us a little bit about something called temporary threshold shift.
TTS, temporary threshold shift. That occurs after, and we've all experienced it if we've gone to a concert.
Yes.
Or you've been on a loud lawnmower or whatever. When you're done the noise exposure, you walk out into the quiet and your ears are ringing. And your hearing is kind of muffled. You've got what they call temporary threshold shift. That means you have a temporary, slightly elevated hearing levels, and you've got tinnitus.
Okay.
And you crash overnight, you go to bed, you're going, oh my God, and you hear this at night.
And your ears are ringing as you're going to sleep, even. I'm never going to get to sleep. But and you wake up the next morning and
it's gone.
Oh, okay.
Healed. And the reason is that's why industrial places that do hearing tests, they test you in the morning.
Oh, okay.
Because your TTS, your noise exposure, your temporary hearing loss due to noise is gone. And I always say to people, it's like the analogy of walking across your lawn all the time. Sure, you can walk across the lawn to get to the curb, no problem. And the grass blades are under your feet, they bend and they stand back up again. But you keep walking the same path and you'll wear it down.
Sure.
So if you keep repeated noise exposure, your TTS will turn into PTS, permanent threshold shift.
Oh, I see.
And
okay.
so that's noise-induced hearing loss.
So if you have the temporary variety of threshold
that's
shift,
a warning.
That's a warning, and you're not past the point of no return.
No, you say it'll bounce back.
Okay.
It's like, it'll bounce back, and it does.
So what happens if you went to that concert last night and you got the best seat in the house right in front of the speaker stack, right? So you hear nothing on SkyTrain all the way home, even though there's 4,000 people in the car. You wake up the next morning and it's not gone. There's still a kind of a going on in your so what does that tell you, aside from the fact that you're really dumb and picked the worst seat in the house for your hearing?
You probably have some permanent hair cell damage.
Interesting.
You probably do. And it may, the ringing in your ear may subside a bit over time, but TTS is like nature's warning. It's like, hey, you guys, it's like when you're staring at the sun like some idiot would, and all of a sudden you see black spots or whatever.
Sure.
It's like, wake up and smell the coffee. Like, not good.
Right.
So TTS is like a warning. And if you're not listening to the warning and you go to the next concert the next night or a week later, you do it again and you do it again, you're just asking for it. I mean, now it's going to turn permanent.
Jeez.
You think of hunters. Now, there's two kinds of noise. We were talking about ongoing factory noise, steady state
or
noise.
Or jackhammers or something like that.
But sometimes noise is sudden impact noise.
Right.
It's like one... like some real loud, sudden noise trauma.
Like a gun going off.
Yeah, like a gun going off. And
okay.
Hunters are unique for that because when they're shooting with a rifle, A right-handed person is holding the rifle, and it's when you're cocking a rifle, and listeners can pretend they're holding a rifle, and
Ted is, by the way.
And by the way, I'm going postal here. When I'm holding the rifle, it's my left ear that's closest to the barrel.
Oh, okay.
Now, people who are right-handed shooting with a rifle are going to have left ear hearing loss.
Interesting.
Did you know, by the way, that the bang of a rifle or a gun is actually not the dynamite exploding, it's the bullet breaking the sound barrier?
Oh, is that right?
That's why with a silencer, they twist that on there.
Yeah, right,
and it's
right.
You always got to kill people at close range because you're slowing the bullet down.
Ah.
And it's not breaking the sound barrier.
Interesting
It's
stuff.
like snapping the end of a towel. That little tip wide snaps, that the tip is breaking the sound barrier.
Remind me never to take swimming lessons with Dr. Ted, okay?
Because it hurts. That's why it hurts so bad when you snap a towel at somebody, because that little tip is actually moving so fast.
Right.
It's broken the sound barrier.
Ah, okay. We need to take a quick break here. And when we come back, I want to talk about, you're talking about early warning signs.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, there's a whole new group of people coming up, and Dr. Ted has, in his very experienced term as an audiologist, taken time to speak to school children. And I'm curious about the message that you have for young people in elementary school. This is where you sow the seeds.
That's right.
To a lifetime of quality hearing.
It's all about grade 6.
Or not. We'll talk about grade 6 and as we continue here on Boomer Life with audiologist Dr. Ted Venema. Back after this.
It's all about the baby boomer lifestyle. Boomer Life on AM 650.